One of our family traditions is that every year on Christmas, we always go to our aunt's house after we open presents in the morning. So we get there, and because both of my cousins were older girls, they'd usually hang out with my older brother and sister. Me being the baby of the family, I kind of had to make up my own fun. My uncle, who spent almost the entire day in his easy chair watching whatever was on TV, would constantly crack jokes at me and try to get me to smile. But I remember one year he had a surprise for me. He said, "Hey there, Bob," which was his funny joke nickname for me. "I got a brand new game on my computer in there. Why don't you give it a whirl?" So I went over to his office, booted up his computer, found the game that he was talking about. That's when I first heard that eerie melody for the first time. Now granted, I was like 5 or 6, but I immediately fell in love with this game. Being a suited up super soldier, the only hope for humanity, and stepping out onto the ring for the very first time, my mind was completely blown, and seeing the rest of the halo in the sky. Oh, it was so good. After that, it seemed like that game was everywhere in my life. All of my friends started getting Xboxes one by one, and we used to go over to each other's houses for split screen co-op. Halo 1 was the first, then Halo 2, until finally the year Halo 3 came out. But to play Halo 3, you had to have the brand new Xbox 360. So I worked my butt off as a summer camp counselor to buy my very first Xbox 360. The Halo 3 campaign was amazing. ODST, you got to play as like a soldier, but it also came with like a firefight mode, and the multiplayer disc was insane. It was just one disc, but it had every piece of multiplayer content on it for you to play. I will always remember the day that we crowded around in the band room when I got my Game Informer on the last Halo game that Bungie would ever make, Halo Reach. We scraped and saved every single one of our allowances and pleaded with our moms to go to the midnight release for this game. And Reach was fantastic. The story, emotional. While it didn't add a ton to the lore, it was still just so good. Eventually, that came to a close. We moved on to other games. Of course, all my buddies started to move over to Call of Duty, but my senior year of high school, Bungie dropped their trailer for their next game. It looked cool and weird, and we got to be super soldiers again. Oh, I was so excited. When I booted up Destiny for this first time and I got to hear Peter Dinklage's voice as the Ghost, fight my way through Vandals, and I stepped into the tower for the very first time, I was blown away. I was so excited. This game was going to be around for years. It was going to be a live service game that they would continuously update, almost like an MMO, but for consoles. Finally, we had like an MMO for consoles, which unless you were a big fan of Final Fantasy XIV, that wasn't really a thing. And while I was so excited to get into this and start playing, all my friends hated it. It wasn't Halo. It was weird. It was different. You had to collect things, the missions were kind of boring, there was only a few maps, and the multiplayer just kind of felt off. I get it. Destiny has a lot of issues. Still does. But I stayed with it. I followed Bungie from Destiny 1 to 2. My Titans survived the Cabal, watched the planets get vaulted, defeated the darkness, and when I finally defeated the Watcher, I put my controller down. I thought, this is it. Sure, I'd heard rumors of Bungie's next game, but this might be it. I played a little bit of Arc Raiders, and I knew their next game was an extraction shooter. I really wanted to like extraction shooters, but Arc Raiders kind of felt boring. There was nothing really to work for, other than just getting your content vaulted. But then they dropped that open beta. After that, I was hooked. Marathon. This is Bungie's next big game and entry into the extraction shooter genre. You have to hunt, loot, survive, and then extract. And while this game is technically a sequel to Bungie's original game set back in the 90s, it's got some very loose ties. Very similar to a hero shooter, you have to pick from different heroes, or shells as they call them here, for your loot, guns, shields, backpacks, all that fun stuff. And be on the watch not only for NPCs, or the UESC as they call them, but also be looking out for other teams of runners, because they are ruthless. Like I said, this is not Arc Raiders. If a team jumps on you, you're probably dead. But most importantly, Bungie is back, and back in a really, really good way. So before I get into the main review, I actually kind of want to break it down for you lore nerds on how this game is actually connected back to the original Marathon games from the 90s. So I'm just going to walk you through some of the big bullet points of the Marathon universe and how we got here. To start off with, The Marathon universe has humans settling on different planets. The main two planets are Earth and Mars, of course, but humanity decided to expand to one other planet. They looked to settle in the nearest star system, otherwise known as Tau Ceti, on the fourth planet. So they decided to build this ship, essentially converting a moon into a giant spaceship called the Marathon. Now, the UESC, otherwise known as Unified Earth Space Council, decided to fill the ship with colonists and 10 battleroids. God, that's such a 90s sounding name. They are essentially this universe's super soldiers. They basically took humans and combined them with different pieces of technology and made them super advanced, strong, elite cyborgs. Kinda sounds familiar, huh? So the ship leaves, makes its way for Tau Ceti, gets lost for a little bit, and finally shows up 300 years later in the Tau Ceti system on the planet that they called Tau Ceti 4. They build a colony, everything goes great, but then everything starts to fall apart. You see, also on the ship, along with the colonists and the super soldiers, there were 3 AIs to take care of everything. You had Leela, Tycho, and Durandal, each with a job to control the ship or the mission. And one day, about 30 years after the establishment of the colony, Tau Ceti gets an alert that the Marathon ship is under attack. So they send your character, a Battleroid, to go check out what's going on. This is when you figure out that it's a race of aliens, otherwise known as the Four. Durandal, one of the AIs, went rampant and contacted these aliens. And of course, your job is to defeat the aliens. And hey, you do. You push them back from the Marathon and Tau Ceti, and you jump off into space to go fight them on their home turf. But before you do send a message with Leela back to Earth, telling them all about everything. The aliens, Durandal, and that the colony needs help. But it's going to take about 90 years to get to them. And as your Battleroid jumps into space after the Four, about 3 months later, the Four come back in a separate attack to Tau Ceti, and according to Durandal, wipes out the whole colony. So fast forward to 99 years later, the colony is empty, the ship is silent, and Earth finally got the message. The UESC sends its forces, but so did the corporations. A lot of corporations also had a hand in sending off the UESC Marathon, and they kind of want some of their stuff back and some other stuff that they'd found, a return on their investment. But of course, these companies aren't going to get their hands dirty themselves, so they send someone else. That's where you come in. You're not a super soldier this time, you are a runner, a brain signal in a robot shell, chasing contracts and drowning in a depth. Hey, just like real life. There's something still out there on Tau Ceti, and you're gonna find it. And that's kind of where the story takes off. And if you're really interested to continue to learn more about the lore of Marathon, trust me, there is a lot. I barely grazed the surface. And with the release of this new game, there's a lot more lore to come out too. There's lots of unsolved questions, mysteries about the universe from even before this new game came out, lore that comes from other Bungie games. There's just a ton of stuff. So again, if you want to do your research, be my guest. There are lots of great channels here on YouTube that cover this stuff. But now let's talk about the game. Right off the bat, the visuals here are fantastic. This futuristic, colorful world is also somewhat terrifying. I've actually heard some people complain about how colorful it is, but I totally disagree. That is eerie and strange, almost like liminal spaces. Kind of like how Midsommar is a bright horror movie. Works for the same reason. Each environment feels alien but lived in, that also became a battlefield at some point. There are 4 maps you can play on right now, and every single one has their own unique personality. Foggy countryside labs, marshy research zones, cold digital dorms. Each have their own hidden path, secrets, nooks to hide in, and smart verticality. So in all fairness, I actually haven't tried the Cryo Archive yet, which is the newest map that was added and is kind of considered to be like the hardcore mode. But that's also because I haven't found like a squad to play with that I'd be willing to risk my loot for. But the area looks really unique and alien and cold. It's got tons of interesting loot, lore, and even a unique boss. In terms of the gameplay, its gunplay is snappy, quick, and satisfying. It reminds me of the old Halo days, especially with the pistols, shotguns, and battle rifles. Each gun has a weight to it. You can really feel when you pop an enemy's shield. The only real difference is that it's almost a bit quicker than your average Halo experience. Killing enemies or getting damaged is a lot quicker, and you go down a lot faster. Once you load into a zone, you basically try to fill up your backpack with things that you need for a contract, mission, or just your own progression. Then you try to exfil while avoiding other runners and UESC robots. Of course, you could always hunt down other runners yourself, but it also comes at risking all your loot, so In terms of the game progression, you have a set of companies that you can work for, each with their own rewards and progression. Leveling up one of the companies will give you more loot space in your locker. Another one ensures that your favorite gun is always in the armory, the in-game store. You can also try to fill out your codex, which gives you unique skins for your runner and your guns, stickers, lore entries, and even titles. In terms of the things I don't really like about the game, there's just not much. My only real complaint is the UI. Now, I know this has been a common complaint since day one, and I'd say it's a valid complaint, but Bungie knows about it and is trying to fix it. However, I still think it's kind of a friction point right now. Not having a clean UI makes a complicated game even worse. Trying to figure out what things to sell, what things to not sell. What does this thing do? It makes trying to figure out what you need and what you should try to pick up really complicated. And for new users, trying to learn a stressful game makes it even more stressful. Again, I hope they come up with a really good fix for this, and Bungie has had a great track record with this game and trying to fix things. So we'll see. My other complaint is not an issue really with the game, but so much with my own gameplay style. I, myself, am not a competitive first-person shooter player. While I played a lot of them in my youth, playing online multiplayer shooters always just feels a little bit too competitive for me. And this game really brings that out. I get dropped by assassins, or have teammates that don't load out with great equipment, and I just end up losing all of my stuff. Especially when you're a solo player that goes into team fill, it's really luck of the draw. But for some reason, every single time I rage quit by losing my blue shotgun, it takes me about 15 minutes to start thinking about what I need for that next upgrade, and I want to log back in.
Is there a sign of life in what's beyond?
I am addicted to this game, even though I'm bad at it. And I think that's just a testament to how good the underlying loop of this game is. It's been 25 years since the first Halo came out, and 25 years since I sat down on my uncle's computer and played it for the first time. In those years, I've had friends that moved on, scattered, grown up. Tons of matches of Halo and custom games that I'll never get back. The buddies that I used to go on Destiny missions with, trying and failing at every single raid that we did, and getting lost in whatever skybox that Bungie put up. But here I am, again, many years later, logging back onto another Bungie game, and I'm addicted. Marathon is not Halo, it's not Destiny, and it's not trying to be. But it reminds me why I fell for this studio in the first place. The worlds they build, the way they make their games feel, and just that little voice saying maybe just one more run. It's not a perfect game, but a genuinely surprising one. When I stepped into Halo as a kid, my mind was blown. Marathon made me feel, just for a moment, like that kid again.
There's no time to hesitate. The horrors of the future race, and I cannot undo what they have done.
Hey, thanks for watching. Sorry if my voice sounds a little rough, I'm actually getting over something right now. If you like this review, go check out some of my other reviews. And if you like this content, please drop a like and a comment. It really, really helps the channel. Also, come join our Discord. You can find the link in my YouTube channel. Alright, see ya, Space Cowboys.